Here are the top stories for today, October 9, 2020. Malacañang said it may call for a special session to pass the national budget. Parents are urged to get their children vaccinated. Telco companies are again called out to improve their services. And DTI is in talk with Russian officials on COVID-19 vaccine. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. President Rodrigo Duterte urged House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano and Marinduque Representative Lord Alan Velasco to resolve their leadership tussle and pass the 2021 budget. Chris Mundo has the details.
Either you resolve the issue sa impasse ninyo dyan and pass the budget legally and constitutionally. Pag hindi ninyo ginawa, ako ang gagawa para sa inyo.
President Rodrigo Duterte, in his brief speech last night, reiterates he no longer wanted to be in between the tug-of-war taking place between his two allies, House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano and Marinduque Representative Lord Alan Velasco. Duterte stressed the need to resolve their issue and pass the 2021 national budget legally and constitutionally.
Pero wag naman sana ninyong sobrahan ang laro sa Congress na yung budget mismo ang nalagay sa alanganin.
Duterte said he would not give them a deadline but would step in once he sees the possibility of the proposed 21 budget being delayed.
I am not going to give a timeline. Hindi mga diktador lang gumagawa ng ganon. Gusto ko na ayusin ninyo. If and when I see that there will be a delay and it will resolve in the derailment of government service, I said.
Duterte appealed to the speakership rivals to consider Filipinos who were suffering and dying from COVID-19. He said the government already had enough problems dealing with the health crisis, especially since a vaccine has yet to be developed.
Pakiusap ko, ayusin ninyo at isipin ninyo ang Pilipino na nasa ospital ngayon ang kailangan ng medisina. At yung mga Pilipinong mamamatay ngayon. Ang gobyerno natin, maraming problema. Yang COVID na yan, hindi yan umaalis sa Pilipinas, matagal na. So people are dying, people are sick, people need medicines, at marami pang ibang sabihin ko sa inyo. Alam ninyo yan. I will not enumerate because alam ninyo. Kayo ang nag-prepare ng budget nga dyan eh.
He said he was not scaring them, pointing out that there were more important concerns that needed to be addressed rather than the issue who gets to be the House Speaker. Duterte also noted that he could not understand why he would still hear reports about patients dying because they are unable to pay for medicines despite being admitted in government hospitals.
Hindi ko talaga maintindihan, isa pa ito, na may mamatay sa ospital ng gobyerno dahil walang medisina. Wag na wag akong makarinig ng ganun. Sa totoo lang, ang Kongreso was generous enough to give us the Bayanihan Act to heal us one, lahat ng pera nandyan. Wala pa namang kalukuhan akong nakita.
Duterte said people will not remember the players involved in causing a government to go haywire, but they will always remember the president under whose term it happened.
Dito sa ating bayan, na kung magkaletse-letse, hindi yan sila magtanong kung sino ang may kagagawan o responsable for the mess that we are in right now. Ang maalaala lang nila, panahon ni Duterte, napakabaho. Kita mo kung gano'n. Hindi, they do not mention, yung si Alan noon yung sa Congress o si Lord, ano. Wala. Ang sabihin, administrasyon ni Duterte.
For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Crismundo.
Malacañang said it may call for a special session to ensure the timely passage of the proposed 4.5 trillion peso national budget for 2021. This after Senator Panfilo Lacson warned that the House of Representatives' postponement of its third and final reading of the 2021 General Appropriations Bill could lead to a reenacted budget.
Kung kinakailangan po talaga, meron naman pong December 14 na adjournment for Christmas ang Kongreso. Kung talagang kinakailangan, after the 14th, dun po magpapatawag ng special session. Wala naman pong prejudice yan.
Roque insisted that there would still be enough time for the Senate to pass the proposed national budget. He also refused to comment on allegations that House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano is holding the proposed budget hostage amid his speakership row with Marinduque Representative Lord Alan Velasco, saying that it is a purely internal matter of the House of Representatives.
The Senate can continue its own deliberations on the budget kasi hindi naman po yan nakadepende sa pagtatapos ng budget sa House.
The Senate had hoped to receive the House's final version of the budget bill by October 14 so they could begin working on it during the break from the session. With the House's move, the Senate would be receiving the bill after the session resumes on November 16. Parents are urged to get their children vaccinated for measles following predictions of a possible measles outbreak in 2021. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque allayed fears against the government's immunization campaign, saying a measles vaccine is one of the oldest vaccines to be used globally. He said failing to get their children vaccinated could put their health at great risk. The Department of Health said it will conduct a nationwide immunization campaign to prevent a predicted measles outbreak next year.
Ang mensahe po ng Presidente, mga magulang, huwag po natin katakutan ang bakuna. Bakit pa po natin i-expose sa abirya ang ating mga minamahal sa buhay na mga chikiting? Samantalang meron naman po tayong tried and proven na bakuna laban dyan.
The feeding program for children will continue despite blended learning approaches in schools and the coronavirus disease pandemic. The Department of Education, or DepEd, said there will be changes in the feeding program since learning will now be home-based. The feeding period for this school year is reduced to 60 days for the regular component, which includes nutritious food products, and 50 days for the milk component. Under the Republic Act number 11037 or the Masustansyang Pagkain para sa Batang Pilipino Act, the government shall provide a supplemental feeding program for daycare children, a school-based feeding program for public school children from kinder to grade 6, a milk feeding program, a micronutrient feeding program, health examinations, vaccinations, and deworming, among others.
Bigang bahagi naman po ng pagbubukas ng klase sa pampublikong paaralan, naitanong po natin kahapon kay Secretary Liling Briones kung tuloy po yung pagpapatupad ng ating sinulong sa 17th Congress na masustansyang pagkain para sa batang Pilipino. Ito po yung libreng masustansyang pagkain para dun sa mga kulang sa timbang ng mga estudyante sa public schools. Ang sagot po ni Secretary Liling Briones, hinahatid po ng barangay sa mga malnourished na mga mag-aaral ang libre at masustansyang tanghalian sa kanilang mga bahay.
Malacañang urges telco companies to step up and improve their services as the government civil service exams will push through via online. The civil service exam, which was postponed in March, provides eligibility for those who want to work in government.
So tingin ko po habang nandiyan ang teknolohiya, gamitin natin lalong-lalo na napakadami po nating hinahanap ng mga manggagawa sa gobyerno at napakarami ring nawalan ng trabaho dahil sa COVID-19. Kung kinakailangan natin kalampagin ng mga telecoms company, gagawin po natin yan. Dahil tinanong naman ng Presidente, ano bang problema nyo? Kulang daw ang telecoms tower. Ginawa ni Presidente, sinabihan lahat ng mga lokal na opisyalis, pag hindi nyo pinayagan tumayo yan, lagot kayo sa akin. So wala na pong magiging dahilan ng telecoms company kung hindi nila ma-improve yung ating telecoms facilities at connectivity.
The rice tarification program is set to boost government efforts in reducing poverty in the country by making local rice farmers competitive. More on this from Marita Moay.
Amid reports of low price of palay in the country, government officials convened to assess the impact of the rice tarification law. Acting Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua explained that prior to the implementation of the law, the farm gate price of dry palay was 21 pesos per kilo. This means consumers and farmers themselves bear the high cost of rice in the market. With the implementation of the rice tarification law, price dropped to about 16 pesos and 30 centavos per kilo between March and October 2019 and slowly rose from November 2019. Chua said this emerging trend indicates that farm gate prices will not fall below the production cost of 12 pesos per kilo. Because of government support, Chua said highly competitive farmers can bring down the production cost to as low as 5 to 6 pesos per kilo or roughly the same cost that our neighbors are able to produce at. Agriculture Secretary William Dar also reiterated the benefits of the rice tarification law and the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund or RCEF, saying these reforms increase productivity and reduce production costs. However, Dar said this would also involve some adjustments among farmers as they have to organize themselves into cooperatives to obtain economies of scale and benefit from modern farm mechanization. Dar explained that tariff collection as imposed in the law will fund mass irrigation, warehousing, rice research, and other assistance to affected farmers. Meanwhile, Finance Assistant Secretary Antonio Celito Lambino II said the government collected about 12.1 billion pesos for the RCEF within the first year of the law's implementation. This exceeds the government's target of 10 billion pesos. Lambino said the extra fund was allocated for the crop diversification program and the expanded crop insurance program. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Moay.
Still to come, pre-registration for the Philippine identification system is underway, and DTI is in talks with Russian officials on COVID-19 vaccine. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Sa matinding laban natin sa Coronavirus Disease 2019, sugpuin din natin ang pagkalat ng fake news. Huwag magbahagi ng impormasyon na hindi tiyak ang pinagmulan. I-check mabuti ang source ng balita. Kumuha lamang ng impormasyon mula sa mga official channel ng Department of Health. Huwag magpadala sa maling balita, basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, will conduct a house-to-house pre-registration of low-income household heads for the Philippine Identification System, or PhilSys. Step 1 of the three-step registration process for the Philippine ID System, or PhilSys, is to start this Monday, October 12. Target registrants are low-income household heads from 633 towns and cities of 32 pre-selected provinces. These areas were considered because of their low COVID-19 cases, ease of deployment of registration kits, ease of mobilization of registration staff. Deputy National Statistician Rosalinda Bautista said that for Step 1, PhilSys enumerators will go to house to collect demographic information like name, date, and place of birth, permanent address, and blood type. At the end of data gathering, the registrants will be given an appointment slip for Step 2, which will be done at a later date this year. Step 3 is the issuance of the PhilSys number and the physical national ID top registrants. The National Privacy Commission, or NPC, has partnered with the Presidential Communications Operation Office, or PCOO, for the proper enforcement of the Data Privacy Act and the Freedom of Information Bill on government agencies. NPC Commissioner Raymond Liboro said the Data Privacy Act, or DPA, is about accountability and fairness and is not a cloak to cover up corrupt activities in the government. For PCOO Assistant Secretary Chris Ablan, FOI decision makers must take into account the DPA by ensuring the protection of sensitive personal information and only release necessary and relevant data based on the purpose of the FOI request. Aside from being an expert at disclosing information, he said an information officer must also be adept with records management, be well-versed in national security concerns, and must be able to employ standard data privacy and protection. The NPC and PCOO agreed to increase the joint capacity building of its personnel to improve the government's implementation of both the DPA and FOI laws. The Department of Education, or DepEd, reported it has achieved 100% enrollment in public schools nationwide for the school year 2020 to 2021. Latest enrollment data from the department show that more than 22,000 learners have enrolled in public schools, which is higher than last year's enrollees. In private schools, there are a total of 2.18 million learners enrolled. The overall enrollment tally nationwide is at 24.8 million. Education Secretary Leonor Briones said current enrollment is higher than the 80% adjusted number, which was assigned to the DepEd by the National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA. The Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, or 4Ps, will be monitoring the school's performance of beneficiary children in Antique who are enrolled under the new modalities of learning. Workers will be periodically monitoring the status of the learners following the lifting of the force majeure declaration by the 4Ps National Advisory Council last September 30. 4Ps Provincial Link Jeffrey Gabucay said the learners should be able to complete 85% of the number of modules that were given to them by their teachers for each month. Beneficiary children enrolled in elementary are given 300 pesos per month, and those in high school are given 500 per month. The Department of the Interior and Local Government has deployed hundreds of contact tracers in parts of Mindanao to assist in the tracking of COVID-19 cases. In Socsargen, the DILG deployed a total of 1,501 contact tracers, most of whom are residents of South Cotabato who had lost their jobs. Those hired will be integrated and assigned in the contact tracing teams of LGUs for 4 months and will receive a monthly salary of 18,784 pesos, or equivalent to salary of grade 9. In Zamboanga City, the DILG hired 656 graduates of Allied Medical Course and Criminology to serve as contact tracers. The newly hired contact tracers took their oath last week and will assist the existing 3 teams of contact tracers of the City Health Office in tracking and managing close contacts of COVID-19 patients. In our business news, discussions on the trial and possible manufacture of the Russian COVID-19 vaccine in the Philippines are progressing. Russian ambassador to the Philippines, Igor Kovayev, and Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez are said to have agreed in the inclusion of Russia's COVID-19 vaccine when they convene for the Philippine-Russia Joint Economic Commission meeting in November. DTI Undersecretary Seferino Rodolfo said Russia's offer is not only to supply the coronavirus vaccine, but to collaborate for the possible manufacture of vaccines in the country. The Department of Science and Technology is already in talks with Russia's Gamaleya Institute and Russian Direct Investment Fund that launched the Sputnik V, the first registered COVID-19 vaccine in the world. Up next, implementing rules and regulations on the anti-terror law may be out next week. And Bantayan, Cebu promotes religious tourism in the coastal town. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
The Department of Justice targets the completion of the implementing rules and regulations of Republic Act 11479 or the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 by next week. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara said the IRR will be done by October 14, after which it will be published. Last August, the DOJ legal team started drafting the IRR of the law. Solicitor General Jose Calida earlier said the law is already in effect even if the government has yet to craft its IRR. Calida has also said the law has already complied with the requirement of publication having been published in the official gazette. Government troops captured a suspected New People's Army combatant in Misamis Oriental. The said rebel is reportedly behind the burning of trucks in the province. Soldiers captured the rebel after a 15-minute firefight in Barangay Bulahan in Claveria. The Army's 58th Infantry Battalion identified the rebel as James. He was caught with an anti-personnel mine and a .38 caliber pistol. The rebel revealed that he is among those who burned the equipment of Del Monte Philippines on October 6 because the company rejected the NPA's extortion activities. Alias James also disclosed the names of other rebels who took part in destroying the civilian property. In Cebu, the municipality of Bantayan is planning to develop a multi-species hatchery for fishermen and promote religious tourism in the coastal town. Bantayan Mayor Arthur Despi said he has requested Agriculture Secretary William Dar for help to realize the project through the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. He said he recently talked with a private company that assured of a buyer who would export the products developed at the hatchery. Despi also shared plans on how they intend to boost the tourism appeal of Bantayan.
On that time, yung traveling, transporting materials, supplies through sea, yan ang pinakamadali at yan. So, Bantayan Island being in the center of all these Visayan Islands, Negros, Panay, Masbate. In fact, daanan siya from Manila to Mindanao. So that's maybe the reason. And then because kailangan sila ng pagkain at tubig, so dadaan sila dito. So that's how we started. Kaya yan ang tinitingnan namin na yung sa tourism namin pag may develop namin itong pilgrimage o religious tourism.
In Kidapawan City, police teams will be deployed in cemeteries as the local government prohibits visitation from October 28 to November 4. Mayor Joseph Evangelista issued the directive as part of quarantine protocols against the virus. Evangelista said the local government initially plans to field 100 cops to public and private cemeteries. He also ordered the city's compliance monitoring team to coordinate with local police authorities and the traffic management unit in putting up checkpoints along the perimeter of burial grounds. World Athletics President Sebastian Coe assures that Tokyo will host a fantastic Olympic Games despite the uncertainties brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. Coe was in Tokyo to inspect the track at the Olympic Stadium. He was accompanied by the Japanese Olympic Committee Chief Yasuhiro Yamashita and World Athletics CEO John Ridgian. Despite some expected adaptations, Coe said they would be able to host the Olympics with the support of the organizing committee and make sure that athletics is at the center stage. The former president of the London Olympics Organizing Committee is also excited by the 2 world records that were broken in Valencia, Spain. These were made by Uganda's Joshua Cheptegei in the men's 10,000 meters and Ethiopia's Letesenbet Gidi in the women's 5,000 meters. Coe said he is hoping that Tokyo will host the World Championships again soon after the Olympics. Iloilo's Mariit Wildlife and Conservation Park is now open to the public amid the pandemic. Mariit is the first conservation, breeding, and rescue park in Panay Island, located at the campus of the West Visayas State University College of Agriculture and Forestry. Apart from endangered species, Mariit Park also hosts rich flora and fauna. Visitors are advised to take extra caution as some animals in the area are in their breeding season and have become aggressive. Areas that are open to guests are thus limited, and now only 30 persons are allowed to enter. Visitors are also advised to keep noise at a minimum to avoid disturbing the animals and refrain from approaching them. As always, guests should observe protocols such as wearing of face masks, face shields, washing of hands, and logging in and out for contact tracing. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. Malacañang said it may call for a special session to pass the national budget. Parents are urged to get their children vaccinated. Telco companies are again called out to improve their services. And DTI is in talk with Russian officials on COVID-19 vaccine. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check out more news content, visit our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day, stay safe, and happy weekend, everyone.